Corey and Zach lingered in foster care for years, longing for a permanent place to call home.
Hey, Doc, we're got a little problem here. We got no news running, so can you go early?
I didn't feel loved.
Sure.
Every day felt like a lost cause.
Now it's
I
playing.
thought, who would want to adopt an older child?
I don't know what happened to it. It got delayed there somewhere.
We'll get it.
It's fine. That wasn't even me. It's still in computer control.
From the Dave Thomas Foundation for Adoption.
It's really difficult to wonder how you're going to make it. I'm not going to have that problem now.
So we're going live in a few minutes, folks. Hang in there. Dr. Bill will be right with you. Talk a little bit about what's going on in the Ukraine and China and the world and the economy. Talk a little bit about the virus. We'll talk about a little bit of everything. So hang with me. I'll be right back.
Because no matter what, no matter where, you need the truth. And specifically, if you're listening from Newport Richey to St. Petersburg or from Tampa to the coast, you can get the answer on FM 93.7, always on AM 860, online at theanswertampa.com, and depending on where you are, on FM 93.7.
With any investment, the goal is to make as much money as possible. Real estate offers great return potential, historically lower volatility than stocks, and can be an excellent hedge against inflation. Visit OneStopPropertyShop.net to make sure you're buying at the right price, collecting maximum rent and selling for top dollar. Rental income goes right into your bank account each month. Get top flight real estate services, monthly statements, and 24/7 account access. Visit OneStopPropertyShop.net and get a free gift. That's OneStopPropertyShop.net. Services offered by All County Folk Property Management. Tim Davis Broker.
AM 860, The Answer. Online at theanswertampa.com.
Odyssey.
Here is your exclusive AccuWeather forecast.
Plenty of sunshine for today with a high of 83. Mainly clear skies for tonight with a low 65. Partly sunny tomorrow with a high 78. And some low clouds Tuesday with a high 77. Plan with confidence. Download the redesigned AccuWeather app today. That's your AccuWeather forecast. I'm Gregory Patrick for AM 860, The Answer.
And I'm on. This is Dr. Bill, your radio MD. I got Ken by my side, and we're doing a show this morning on 860 AM. We're streaming on YouTube and Facebook and drbillradiomd.com, and I think linked, I'm not sure, but I got to check all this stuff out one day, Ken, and figure out where I'm really at. I don't know where I'm at. Sometimes I'm lost. Well, these are grave times, my friend. These are scary times, and we were talking before the show, and Ken was saying he was watching the refugees stream from the Ukraine into Poland, and it looked like pre-World War II, and
In high def yet.
in high definition, yeah. So this is not going to end well, and as Dr. Bill predicted, the Russian economy is going to tank. Their stock market is down 46% this year so far. This year. And the ruble is down to, I think, 2 cents to $1. So if you want to get more than $1 worth of rubles, it's 100 rubles. So $1 will buy you about 95 to 98 rubles. So it ain't worth much. Hey, it'd be a good time to go shopping.
I was just going to say, let's vacation in Russia.
Yeah, I think Moscow's probably got some deals on rooms too.
Yeah.
And
Of course, you can't get there now. You can't fly in there, right? I mean, have they pretty much closed airspace over Europe to Russian aircraft?
I'm guessing they did. They should. It would only make sense because you don't want to feed them anything, and you don't want to allow their oligarchs and their families and their diplomats and their spies to go back and forth. We want to keep everybody bottled up for the moment and see what's going to shake out. It ain't going to be good. It ain't going to be.
No, this is not going to end pleasantly. No.
And the Baltic states, Latvia, Lithuania, and Estonia, I'm sure they're ramping up for war, and we're quietly streaming supplies and armaments into them and getting troops in there. I mean, we act like we're doing it all in Poland, but that's just a feint. That's not the only area that we're ramping up. And
Are the three of them in NATO?
yes, they are.
They are. Okay, that's a whole different war for Mr. Putin.
Well, but if he's emboldened, if he thinks that the United States won't move, then he may very well say, well, they're really part of Russia too. We're taking them back.
I can't see that happening. I really can't. It would destroy NATO.
I don't think it would destroy NATO. I think NATO would.
If we didn't fight in a NATO country because we're
yeah, I think
right.
we would fight.
We would have to fight.
Yeah, I think we would fight. I think Putin would misread the situation and would ramp up and start invading the Baltics, and that would be that would be a declaration of war against NATO.
Yeah, absolutely, and it would get really ugly then.
And don't forget, even Turkey is they're part of NATO. I mean, they're not full members, but they're in the defense league there. So there's only a few countries in Europe that are not part of NATO. Belarus, which Putin took over 5-10 years ago, I can't remember.
Yeah.
And I don't think. Well, of course, Switzerland's not in it, and I don't think Austria is in it, and a couple of the Balkan states are not in it. But for the most part, it's all of Europe. I mean, even Portugal is in it. So everybody's in it. We're up to our waders, and this is getting sticky, shall we say? So also the SWIFT. You know what SWIFT is? That's an
Yes.
It's an international electronic banking system that the big banks and the central banks, they can move money around by going onto a computer, and with the right authorizations and codes and all that, they can instantaneously transfer money back and forth. And the Russians are now out of that. We booted them out, baby. And so now, if they want to move money, they have to go back to fax machines or telephone calls. And guess what? The big banks don't do that. They don't have fax machines anymore. They're gone. That's a 20th century technology, dude. And nobody's going to pick up the telephone from a Russian bank and say, "Yeah, sure, we'll be happy to move a couple $100 million over your way." So they need money, and now their rubles that are in foreign banks, because they sell treasury notes just like we do, it's tied up, and they can't move it back over. So they're going into a cash crunch. Their energy sector is crashing because of the cutoff of oil and gas to the Europeans. And we'll see if this idiot Biden can figure out how to ramp up our production and start supplying Europeans and isolate these folks. This is a big mess, my friend. And like I told you guys, and you weren't listening to me, and now I'm telling you again, we're going to put Russia into a recession, and it's going to be even more unstable because they're only going to have one option. That is to expand their war to keep their economy growing. Not a good situation.
Well, Doc, what is his overall goal here, do you think? I mean, it's obviously not, I would think, unless he's going absolutely mad, it's not to start World War III. He wants that buffer from NATO, obviously.
I think he wants, and he's made it clear that he wants to restore the old Soviet empire, and basically that is most of Eastern Europe and parts of Northern Europe, Poland, Ukraine, Belarus. I think that's what he wants.
But he's gonna have a heck of a problem with NATO once he starts going after places like, Latvia or whatever.
Well, yeah, but remember, if he can take, and this would be my strategic thinking, if I could take the Ukraine, if I could take some of the smaller states and get everything around the Black Sea I could and bottle that up, then I would be able to protect that flank against the Turks coming up, and I would have enough resources, and I could start drafting Ukrainians and other Slovakian nations in that area, and I'd have an army built up. Now, whether or not that is possible, I don't know. I think that he's made a big mistake, not just because he invaded, but because he is tweaking the nose of a lot of countries, and they're mad and they're out to get him. First it's going to be financial because, of course, Europe doesn't want another war, but hell, the Europeans are always fighting, so I don't know what's the difference. I can't remember a time in my life when there wasn't some war going on in Europe, whether it was the Balkans or the Russians or the Turks or World War I, World War II, internecine warfare. I mean, this goes back thousands of years. Even the Romans were fighting the Germans 2,000 years ago.
Well, that's what the EU was supposed to prevent, correct? When they put it all in the, everybody's on the same currency, the euro dollar, and it was all supposed to take away that difference and make everybody more compatible.
And I think to a certain degree it has, but, it's also gotten the Russians upset because they're like, well, you know what, guys? You're starting your own little club. We're going to start ours. I'm taking over the eastern part of Europe. You can have the West. And if you want to duke it out, come on.
Well, if he tries to step into Germany, it's all over.
It's not the same Germany it was 50, 70, 80 years ago. They've been pacified. They're kind of like the Canadians now. They're pretty sheepish.
Yeah, almost like the Japanese.
I told you
they didn't want to give any weapons to anybody.
Yeah, well, now there's a big move in Japan to start producing offensive armaments, which means they've been producing them. Now now it's just starting to come out, but it's a difficult situation. And if you look at the situation in China and Taiwan, everybody says, well, China's now going to take this as an opportunity to seize Taiwan. I think what they're going to do, and this is what I would do before I took Taiwan, is I'd go ahead and finish bottling up the South China Sea. And we have seen this coming, obviously, because we have been increasing our naval presence in the South China Sea and boosting up our military, our ground troops in countries like the Philippines and Palau and Taiwan and Japan and different areas. But I would take the South China Sea because if you can bottle up the Straits of Singapore and you can bottle up all those little channels through the Malaysia and Indonesian and Philippine islands, you've got a really good buffer there because a lot of those states will join the Western alliances in fighting China, whether it's the Philippines or little itty bitty Palau or Taiwan, Japan, Malaysia, Indonesia. Singapore, of course, is at threat. It's a jewel. I mean, it's a gem to have. There's just so much there, and the Vietnamese hate the Chinese, and they love Americans. Go figure that.
Yeah, that's a turnabout.
The hell out of them, they still love us.
But does China really want to do that? I mean, they want to fight everybody? because that's what they'll be doing essentially, fighting everybody from the middle of the Pacific to back to Vietnam and South Korea and all that.
I think that
we're pretty strong. Those nations are not weak. They've got their own armies. They're pretty good.
Well, and remember, the Vietnamese have defeated the Chinese a couple of times. All of their warfare, all of their tactics they used against us, like the punji sticks and the caves and all that, they perfected that hundreds of years ago when they were fighting off the Chinese, and they drove them out. So it's not the first time that they've encountered the Chinese. And, of course, people don't remember their history. I'm sure most of China doesn't remember or even care that they went to war with Vietnam in the past and tried to conquer it and didn't and couldn't. And those were some powerful Chinese empires, whether they were the Mongolian rulers or the northwestern, the descendants of what is my wife's tribe, the Koreans. The northwestern part of the northeastern part of the country, Manchuria, that's the same bloodline as my wife's. And at one time, the Koreans had an empire that encompassed a good chunk of Manchuria. So but people who desire power oftentimes are blinded. It's like making money your God. You'll never please that God because you can never make enough money. So it's the same with power. You can't get enough power. And that's what we see with people who have a lust for that. And we see that in our own political system. We've seen it with these Democrats that are in now. They don't care about us. They care about power. And they'll keep doing whatever they think they have to do to hang on to that power. And now they're dropping all the mask mandates in all of the blue states. Did you see that?
Yeah, I noticed, yeah. Even my own Illinois finally said, that's enough.
I love it, and then they're thinking, oh, crap, we're not going to get reelected if we don't do something here. So
yeah, it just so happens the governor is up for reelection in Illinois this year. What a coincidence.
Yes, he is. And so Here's the thing, Ken. Here's the thing. Now, I want to tell you this. We'll get back to politics and economics and socio-political stuff in a few minutes, but I wanted to, before we get too far, I got to tell you what I did this week. So one of the main lines the main line going out at the office, the sewer line clogged up and all the toilets are backing up. That's not good in a doctor's office.
Not good in any office,
That's
Doc.
not good in any office. So I thought, well, I'll save myself $400 or $500, and I went out and I rented a 50-foot snake. One of those things that looks like a real tightly coiled spring.
Sure, I've used a lot of them in my lifetime. Yeah.
And you turn the motor on and you feed it in. Well, I'd made it out 50 feet and I didn't hit anything. And I'm like, oh crap! And so then we flushed a few toilets and everything started coming up all over the place. And I was exhausted by that time, hauling things around, pulling toilets and this and that. So we got a guy to come out and do it. I think it was Hometown or Homeboys or something like that.
Plumber? You brought a plumber in?
Got a plumber in. $350, but he had a 100-foot snake, and he just barely got to it. Lesson learned. Get the biggest snake you can.
Get the longest snake you can.
Get the longest snake you can. And so then the wife said, I don't like that old yellow toilet in there. So I have, I've got a couple of toilets in reserve at the office. So then we brought in the new handicap toilet, which is higher. It's white. It's pretty. It's hardly used. And we put that in. So he charged me $195 to do that. And I was like, oh, just do it. By that time, my neck was a mess. So it's been a week of activity. And then my neighbor, her mailbox door fell off. Our mailboxes are getting a little old around here. And the rivets that are holding the hinges onto the mailbox doors are starting to corrode away. Because, we live in a sea of salty air down here in Gulfport. So yesterday we replaced her mailbox, and one of my neighbors and I was out there with my Dremel cutting the bolts off because they were rusted out. Oh, God. We finally got it on. It looks good. Now everybody in the neighborhood is jealous and they want their mailbox replaced. So what are you going to do? What are you going to do?
That's not an association thing? That's everybody's personal responsibility there?
It's an association thing, but at the fire pit the other night, Gilda said, Bill, my mailbox door fell off. Can you help me and put it back on? And I went over and looked at yesterday. I'm like, this ain't going back on. The rivets are all busted off. You know, and I'm not going to drill through this and piece of junk. By the time I spent that amount of time, I could have cut the bolts off and replaced it, which is what I did. So we have a few in reserve that the community owns, but rather than wait till next week when the handyman is here, she wanted it done, and I said, hey, you know, this is good PR. We'll go ahead and do it. And she's a nice gal.
You're just being a great guy, like you always do.
Well, I have ulterior motives. I want to be reelected. It's not enough to do good, my friend. You have to be
It's the power
seen.
you want. It's the power you want, Doc.
It's power. You have to be seen doing good. If you're not seen doing good, it doesn't count because people don't know. And there's nothing wrong with being public about your affection for your fellow human beings. Let them know you care. That's important, I think, anyway. So
How you get reelected.
yeah, you get reelected. So, Ken, I got to tell you this. The CDC is finally tracking vaccinated versus unvaccinated for hospitalizations. And so if you are unvaccinated adolescent between 12 and 17, you're 8 times higher to be hospitalized with the COVID. If you're 18 to 49, 12 times, and 50 and up, 17 times higher. Now, if you have had all 3 doses, compared to somebody who has not had any doses, it's 18 to 49, 30 times higher likely to be hospitalized, 45 times higher for 50 to 64, and 51 times higher over 65. Can you believe that?
Those are some big numbers.
Those are big numbers, my friend. That is good stuff that the CDC is putting out. Those are the kind of statistics I like to see. This is important, and I know that I can't make it mandatory that you get vaccinated, but I'm telling you guys, you want to protect yourself, get vaccinated, and come see us. We got the vaccine. We've got
what's the phone number over there at the office, Doc?
727-384-6411, 727-384-6411. And we've also got the rapid antigen test, and we've got the rapid PCR test now. So if you're going on vacation to a country that requires a PCR, or you're going back to Canada and they want you to have a PCR, we got it. And guess what? It's only 30 minutes. So it's not a blood draw. You don't have to wait, or a nose swab that goes out and you wait 48 hours. And a lot of people they have to have it within 72 hours of flying or getting back to their home country or going to Europe or whatever. Or going to Moscow. I don't know if you need it for Moscow right now. You know, they may have waived it. Sure, we'll be happy if you come over and spend some money. We'll waive everything.
Not a lot of flights going to Moscow right now, I imagine.
Dang. You know, I was looking forward to a trip there, too. I wanted to see Moscow before we take it off the map.
You know, it's probably a beautiful country, I would imagine.
Well, parts of it, I'm sure, but,
Yeah.
Parts of it are just plains, a lot of flat land. And But then you've got the Ural Mountains, and you've got Siberia, and you've got Lake Baikal, which is the largest freshwater lake in the world. I think it impounds like 1/5 of the world's fresh water. 1/5. That is pretty awesome.
That is as big as all of our Great Lakes put together, I think.
Almost. In terms of volume, I think we impound about 1/4 of the world's fresh water in the Great Lakes. Now, by surface area, Lake Superior is the largest lake. But by volume, Lake Baikal is. And you got to remember, parts of Lake Superior are like 4,000 feet deep. I mean, that goes down there a ways. I think Baikal must be 6, 8, 10,000 feet. I don't know. A lot of resources in Russia, a lot of beauty, a lot of history, a lot of wars. They like wars. Don't ask me why, but they like fighting. I would think they'd be happy with the largest country. I think if you put the United States and Canada together, we might be close to their size. I mean, it's a huge landmass. Huge.
I don't know. You may have to add Mexico, too.
Oh, well, let's throw them in there just for fun. What do you say?
Well, what about the people in Russia? How long before they start grumbling, as they say over there?
Well, here's what I have heard. I've heard two things. I've heard the Russian press saying the people are behind Putin and they're glad that he's doing it. And then the outside press is saying they're not happy about this. You know, they don't want to see their kids go off and fight the stupid war like they did in Afghanistan. And remember, the kids that fought in Afghanistan are now parents.
Good point.
And you know, so they're thinking, are we getting into another Afghanistan here? Well, you bet your blue booties that guess what? Ukraine's a lot more powerful than Afghanistan was. And the Afghanis beat them, drove them out. And now you're taking on a country that is fairly modernized, has the backing of a lot of countries for weaponry and support, and they're just as determined as the Afghanis not to have the Russians take them over. So this is going to be a tough sell for Putin if he continues. Hopefully his people will rise up, and he won't be the first czar that's been ousted because of stupid military moves like this. You know, this is not a good situation for him. Remember,
well, short of going to actual war with them, and from a NATO standpoint, really, I think the only thing that can really stop this anytime in the near future would be the people of Russia.
Yeah, and I think that's who we have to appeal to, and I think that's why these sanctions might push them to that. If we get them into a recession, and he doesn't have as tight a control as he thinks he has, the people may say enough is enough. Now, will they have a true democracy? No, they'll just get another oligarch. That's just their nature. They've been that way since, the 9th century when Muscovy was first founded. And how do you break that habit? I don't know. I just don't know. You know, we are so uniquely different in that we never had, as a country, never had a monarch. We never had a czar. We never had an oligarch. We've always had a democracy, a representative democracy, but a democracy. And you think about it even from when we were colonies. Most of the colonies had some form of representative democracy. And I think that's very unique in the world. So we see it quite differently. But if you grew up in Russia with 1,000 years of oligarchs and czars and communist bosses and all that, then you don't know any different, Ken. You don't know any different. And you have to look outside, and I'm sure that most Russians are like most Americans. They really don't know what's going on in the rest of the world. Big country. You're busy with your own life, and you get spoon-fed by the press what they want you to hear. So,
you've been relatively stable for 20 years, you know.
So you've got a generation of kids that have grown up in relative stability, but now some of their parents fought in Afghanistan, and they're saying, I don't think this is a good idea. I'm not sure I want to do this. So we'll see what happens. But remember, I was
talking to one of our employees here who's from Belarus, believe it or not, and she was telling me that in that particular part of the world, everybody is kind of related to somebody else. So you've got Russians related to Ukrainians, Ukrainians related to Russians, Belarus, everybody's family. You'll find somebody's family everywhere. What are the odds of the Russian soldiers saying, hey, my family's from Ukraine, I don't want to kill Ukrainians, and just setting down their arms? Any chance of that, do you think at all, or would they just put them up against the wall and shoot those guys?
Yeah, you just put them up against the wall and shoot them. This is war, baby. I mean, you can't have that. It's like Stalin said, not one step backwards. So anybody who ran, they were shot. And as the Russians went on the offensive in World War II after Stalingrad, they actually had communist officers that stood behind the lines, and anybody that was retreating or running, they killed them. They shot them dead on the spot. So you had two choices. You could run towards the Germans and fight, and you might have a 50-50 chance, or you could run towards the parachiefs, the communist guys with the pistols and the rifles, and you would surely be shot. So it was your choice. I mean, it was a democracy. You had a choice.
Why not that, Doc? Let's take a break.
Let's do it, man.
And we'll come back. We got a question coming up yet today, too, a trivia question.
We got a trivia question, so don't go away, guys. Go grab a cup of coffee, empty that bladder. We'll be right back. I'm Dr. Bill, your radio MD.
With SRN News, I'm Michael Harrington in Washington. Street fighting in Ukraine's second largest city today. Russian troops are squeezing strategic ports in the country's south, and the prospect of peace talks uncertain. The advances today appear to mark a new phase of Russia's invasion following a wave of attacks on airfields and fuel facilities elsewhere in the country. The U.S. and its European allies have agreed to levy the most potentially crippling sanctions yet on Russia over the invasion. The new measures announced yesterday, including restrictions on Russia's central bank and cutting some Russian banks off from the SWIFT global financial system. North Korea has launched a ballistic missile into the sea today in a resumption of weapons tests that come as the U.S. and its allies are focused on Ukraine. Some experts say the North is trying to perfect its weapons technology. Others say it's all about trying to get the U.S. to lift sanctions. This is SRN News.
I am Dr. Bill for Bay Area Medical, located at 6399 38th Avenue North in St. Pete, 727-384-6411, 727-384-6411. Full-service clinic with X-ray, heart imaging, ultrasound, stress testing, and minor surgery. We provide quality health care in a warm and friendly atmosphere. We are multilingual, well-trained, and certified. Most American insurance and new patients accepted. Bay Area Medical, home of Can Care, 727-384-6411. 727-384-6411. Dr. Bill here. With social distancing and sheltering in place, telemedicine is here. Bay Area Medical Home of Can Care Clinic offers telemedicine for new and established patients. You can see me without an in-office visit. Schedule an appointment at 727-384-6411, 727-384-6411. When it's time for your appointment, type this web address into your cell phone or computer web browser, doxy.me/Bay Area Med. A cell phone works well and is all you really need. For computers, you need a web camera and speakers. We'll give you this address when you call for your appointment. We accept most insurances and travel insurances. Canadians and visitors, please call your travel insurance company for an authorization number prior to the visit. Copays and deductibles apply. Self-pay rates are available. Just ask. We accept credit cards, PayPal, and Stripe. 727-384-6411, 727-384-6411. Dr. Bill here. My friends at St. Pete MRI and Sleep Diagnostics are your best choice for state-of-the-art MRI, CT, and sleep studies. Quality unsurpassed. 25 years experience makes St. Pete MRI my go-to imaging center. Self-pay rates are competitive and out-of-pocket cost a fraction of a hospital. Conveniently accessible from both sides of the bay at 750 94th Avenue North, St. Pete, near the Gandy. 727-577-2220, 727-577-2220.
This is important news. If you have unfiled tax returns, the IRS is shifting gears and ramping up investigations on non-filers this year. If you failed to file your tax returns for a year or more, or you owe back taxes, now's the time to call Optima Tax Relief before the IRS finds you. Optima is America's #1 most trusted tax resolution firm, specialized in helping individuals, families, and businesses get right with the IRS. They're experts in the Taxpayer Relief Initiative, a powerful new program that can make resolving tax issues easier. A+ rated with the Better Business Bureau, Optima's award-winning team has helped thousands of people protect their paychecks, bank accounts, homes, and businesses by putting their tax problems to rest, resolving over $1 billion in tax debts for their clients. Call Optima now for a free consultation.
Call 800-965-1433, 800-965-1433, 800-965-1433.
Optima Tax Relief.
Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
Imagine doing one thing that gave you an entirely different perspective about your place in the world. I'm Dinesh D'Souza, inviting you to join me for a 10-day Stand with Israel tour in November of 2022. You'll gain first-hand insight into Israel's fascinating past and promising future. Walk the ancient temple steps and touch the Western Wall. Sail on the Sea of Galilee. Book this tour today. Call 855-565-5519 or book online at standwithisraeltour.com.
AM 860, The Answer. Online at theanswertampa.com.
Odyssey.
Here is your exclusive AccuWeather forecast.
Plenty of sunshine for today with a high of 83. Mainly clear skies for tonight with a low 65. Partly sunny tomorrow with a high 78. And some low clouds Tuesday with a high 77. Plan with confidence. Download the redesigned AccuWeather app today. That's your AccuWeather forecast. I'm Gregory Patrick for AM 860, The Answer.
And we're back. That's a nice little ditty. I like that song.
I do like it. It's got a nice beat. I'll give it a 10.
Yeah, it does. So we're talking about of course, the invasion of Ukraine and the COVID and the economy and the Russian economy, and we were talking about NATO. And Ken, did you know that Norway, Great Britain, Denmark, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, Poland, Slovenia, Hungary, Romania, Bulgaria, Germany, Belgium, France, Italy, Spain, gosh, who else is in there? Portugal, Turkey, Greece, Albania, Montenegro, Bulgaria, Croatia, Slovenia, they're all in it. And I think that the pact is that if one's attacked, they're all attacked. Is that not true?
That is, I believe, called Article 5. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, if he takes on any of them, he takes on all of us. I just don't see that happening. I just see him stopping with Ukraine right now.
Right now, yeah.
And maybe forever.
Well, we hope. Now listen, my sisters, who are all insane, but I still love them, even though I won't talk to them because it's just so aggravating.
But they have no problem calling you for a prescription when they need one.
No, if they need me, they call me, which is okay. I mean, that's what family's for.
You're a brother. That's right.
Yeah, and our president here at our association, he thinks I should cut off the people who have been giving us a hard time and not be nice to them. I'm like, dude, if we're snippy with people that are friendly with other people, we might get a bad rap there. So just be inclusive. Just pretend like you're Jesus or something,
Turn the other cheek. That's right.
So at any rate, so my sister's like, "Oh, Trump's going to get us into a war," and I said, "No, are you crazy? Trump's going to keep us out of war because he's going to build up the military, peace through strength. That's what we've always had. That's pretty much been the mantra since the 1790s. Even that crazy man Jefferson, he decommissioned the whole U.S. Navy and then built it back up to go to war against the barbarian pirates. So he figured it out. Took him a couple of years, but nice boy, good writer.
Really, Teddy Roosevelt really, I think, drove that home.
Teddy Roosevelt really drove it home. So I wanted to recap with you our 10 biggest wars by casualties. Okay, the first being World War II, which was 292,000 deaths. Who was president? Franklin Delano Roosevelt, Democrat. Second biggest kill, American Civil War, 215,000. Who was president? James Buchanan, Democrat. Did you know that he was president when a war broke out? When that war?
I did not realize that. No, we always think Lincoln.
Because Lincoln got elected after it started, and some of the southern states had already seceded, and then the rest of them said, well, if Lincoln gets elected, we're leaving and joining the rest of these guys down here in the Confederacy. And then
I didn't know that happened that closely together. I thought Lincoln was already president. I really did.
Nope. And Buchanan is the one who threw up his hands and said, I don't care. Go ahead and secede. And they said, okay, bye. And then he went back he actually ended up back in the Senate after the Civil War. He was from Tennessee, and he was opposed to the Civil War, but he didn't know how to stop it, or he didn't have the whatever you have to stop it. But now, Lincoln had it. He had what it took. So then we've got World War I, which was 53,000. Woodrow Wilson, Democrat. Vietnam, 47,000. JFK, LBJ, Democrats. Korean War, 34,000. Harry Truman, Democrat. American Revolution, 8,000. That you can't really say was a party related because everybody was in on that. We were all for it. And then the smaller wars, Iraq War, 4,424 people killed. That was Bush in the early 2000s. And then Mr. Madison's War of 1812, 2,260 were killed. And guess what he was?
Democrat?
Democratic Republican. They were the forerunners of the Democrats.
Wow.
It wasn't until Andrew Jackson came along a decade later that the what we now recognize as the Democratic Party was formed. And then Then we had the war in Afghanistan, which was, again, started by Bush, but Obama was in on that. And we only had 1,833 deaths. Did you know that?
I know it's very low, surprisingly low, astonishingly low from what we thought we were going to have.
Yeah. And then the Mexican-American War, I did not know it was this low either. 1,733 people were killed. Our soldiers were killed in the Mexican-American War. I thought it was a much bigger kill than that. And that was Polk, and guess what Polk was? He was a Democrat. So we have 2 Republicans and 8 Democrats for our 10 largest wars. Now, answer this question for me, everybody. Who starts wars? Trump? I don't think so. Republicans? Not usually. Democrats get us into wars. And that's what's happening here. These idiots better stand up and do something. Not just economic. They need to start sending troop support into, or equipment or something into the Ukrainians and help them fight these Russians off. We got to do it, man.
Well, the nice thing about Trump is that he came from the outside. He didn't come from the political world. So they had people around the world have no idea what he was going to do.
Yeah, and
you know what I mean?
And you don't want to tip your hat.
He has no track record on anything like this.
Yeah.
So they treaded very lightly around Donald Trump.
Mm-hmm.
Doc, while we're stopped here for just a second, let's do the question. What do you say?
All right, let's do it. Yeah, man.
All right, we got a question here for the winner. Gets 2 Dr. Bill, your Radio MD coffee mugs. And as always, the question in the second half of the show always deals with something that we talked about in the first half of the show. So today's question is, Doc had some trouble at the office this week, and he had to call in some help. Who did he call? Did he call an electrician? Did he call a plumber? Did he call a carpenter? Did he call a fireman? Well, it wasn't that kind of trouble. But who did he call? If you have the first correct answer, you will win the 2 Dr. Bill, your Radio MD coffee mugs at 877-969-8600. That's 877-969-8600. Call right now. First correct answer to the question, who did Doc had to call in to get some help at the office this week? You'll win those mugs, and they're beautiful, too.
Ooh, Ken, I know the answer. I know the answer.
Don't give it away.
Ghostbusters. That's who you're going to call.
That's who we have to call. I didn't even think about that, Doc. All right. Well, where were we talking about? Where were we? We were in the war, I think, weren't we?
And the Democrats getting us into wars, and Woodrow Wilson, he was the prime example of the left-wing Democrat. He wanted peace in our time, and he wanted to see everybody getting along together. He was basically a pacifist and an intellectual, and of course he held off as long as he could, and then the Senate was just on him like white on snow. I mean, they were saying, you have got to get into this battle and help the Europeans out, or we're not going to have democracies in Europe. And so then the Lusitania was attacked, and that had some American passengers aboard. That was in, 1917, and we came into the war then. We usually come to the party late, which is obvious here again. I don't know why we wait till the third or fourth act to get into things. Do you understand that?
No, I really don't. But it's all local politics. I mean, he couldn't sell it. Like FDR couldn't sell going into World War II. He couldn't sell to the American people. They were firmly against doing that.
That's true, but they started to turn because he was working on them in the late 30s and early 40s, and they started to see some of the atrocities that were going on and scratching their heads and saying, well, what are the Germans doing this for? And I don't know. But
well, we are slow. We tend to finish it off.
Well, and there may be some madness, some method to that madness too, where you have some time to reflect and to put things into order and see which way everything's going to go.
And we don't have a standing army the way we did with even at the beginning of World War II. We didn't have much of a standing army at all. We have to build up our supplies and draft and all that kind of stuff and train these guys. So it takes time to do that.
Well, that's why I keep saying the world is much smaller now, and we have to have, and we do have now a large standing army, and and a healthy military. We do not have the largest Navy by number of ships, but we certainly have the largest Navy by number of offensive weapons, planes and missiles and that sort of thing. So the Chinese actually have more ships than we do, but they're a lot of them are not that big. The Chinese, they claim the South China Sea all the way to the Philippines, Malaysian, Brunei, and Vietnamese borders. I mean, they're like within spitting distance that they claim they own the South China Sea. Now, there's some islands called the Spratlys, which are between Malaysia, the Philippines, Vietnam, and the Chinese say, "Oh, those are ours." Well, they don't even have any bases there. They're mostly atolls, but the Filipinos, the Malaysians, and the Vietnamese have most of these islands and have claimed most of them and have been working most of them as well. So I think that we got a big problem here. And if you look at that area of the world, Ken, the Malay Peninsula comes down and it almost touches Indonesia. And then on the other side, on the east side of the peninsula, you've got Cambodia, Laos, Vietnam. And then you're into the South China Sea. So you have to go through the Straits of Malay or the Straits of Singapore, or whatever you want to call it, to get into the South China Sea. And as I've said before, a lot of the world's shipping goes through there. And you've got these heavily populated countries. I mean, Indonesia's a huge country. There are a couple 100 million people. And Malaysia is a big country. You've got a lot of offensive assets there. The Filipinos, they'll fight. They like to fight. Hell, everybody likes to fight, except for those darn Buddhists. That tears me up. I hate it when they won't come in and help out.
The Buddhists? Okay. Well, the Philippines, they've been invaded before. They know what that feels like, and it wasn't very pleasant.
Yeah, they actually have stood up and fought a few times over the years, but they're a shrinking religion. It's too bad. It's a nice religion too. So we got the Philippines. So you got the South China Sea. It's surrounded by Vietnam, the Malay Peninsula, Indonesia, Malaysia, Brunei, the Philippines, Taiwan, and then China is on the northern border of the South China Sea. It's a big shipping area, and there's a lot of natural resources and great fishing in the Spratlys, and I'm sure there's oil and gas in there, but I think we're supposed to be getting off of that. That's what Joe said anyway. He said, no more oil, no more gas. And now he's going, hey, wait a minute. We're running out of oil and gas. Nobody's can get to work. Can you believe the price of gasoline? I mean, it's going to go up to $5, $6 a gallon.
It's possible, yes, it is. And that's here. In California, it'll be 8 or 9.
Well, it should be. Those people don't need to go anywhere. We'll keep them bottled up over there.
We'll just tell them there's a new variant of the virus and they'll all stay home.
Yeah. And did you see where all the blue states now are dropping their mask regulations and letting people go back to work and go to restaurants and all that? Oddly enough, it's just in time for the election, the midterm election.
What are you saying, Doc? Has this all been political?
Maybe a touch.
Yeah, because we did all right here in Florida by not being so severe.
We did. And, I have nothing but praise for it. I don't agree with everything that our Governor DeSantis says and does, but I have nothing but praise for him. I mean, he has really done a grand job of leading us through this pandemic, of keeping us in the black, of keeping our economy from crashing. And you can't say that about a lot of states. I mean, they would not have made it without the federal government coming in and bailing them out and printing all kinds of money. Oh, my gosh.
And when you think about it, too, Florida is such a service state. I mean, with all the tourism and everything, he did a pretty good job. You're absolutely right. Because that was one of the sectors that was hit, the hardest.
Oh, yeah. Because, people didn't want to travel. I mean, just think of the Canadians. We have 10% of the Canadian population come to Florida every year. So that's 3 to 4 million people that visit just from Canada. And we have over 100 million visitors a year overall. So our tourism industry is huge. For a country or for a state of 22 million, we swell to 100 million a time or 50 million at times. I mean, that's pretty healthy. We become the largest state by population, by people inside the state during the busy seasons, during the high tourist peak seasons. I mean, that's pretty remarkable. And we're able to supply and provide all of the necessary infrastructure, and we can feed everybody, and we got tons of housing. We got all kinds of restaurants and all kinds of hotels and motels and resorts. That's pretty phenomenal what we have built here in this flat little state of ours.
And DeSantis has kept it all going through this pandemic, which is commendable. And I hope, I think he's going to run for president.
Yeah, I think he is too, and he may just win. I heard one poll say that he's now more popular with the Republican base than Trump is. So if he just doesn't say anything too stupid, because anytime you say anything that's not 100% accurate, even if it is 100% accurate, the left-wing press will beat up on you, and that's not nice of them. They're not very nice people. You know that. They hurt my feelings.
Oh, I'll talk to him next time I see him.
I wish you would.
I would. I'll say, stop hurting Doc's feelings. That's not nice. Yeah. Hey, Doc, we have a winner.
Who we got?
We have from Clearwater, Florida, one of my favorite spots, Joan Johnston. Joan Johnston from Clearwater, Florida. She is the winner. She's getting two Dr. Bill Your Radio MD mugs for answering today's question, which was, what professional did the doc have to call in when things went awry at the office this week? Doc, who did you call?
Ghostbusters. No, we called a plumber.
So, plumber showed up instead of Bill Murray. But you know what? You got your toilets unclogged, I'll bet.
And we put in a new one. We took out one of the old ones to run the snake through it, and the wife said, I don't like that. That's 30 years old. Get rid of that. And I said, yes, ma'am. And so we got
about 7 minutes left, Doc. Where should we go next?
What would you like to talk about, Ken? What is it that you need to know about your life that you don't know that Dr. Bill can help you with?
I need to know why my foot still hurts.
Are you taking your medication?
See, Doc is, just in case you don't know, Doc is also my personal physician. I like saying that. It makes me sound rich. Anyway, around Christmas time, I had to go over there because my heel started hurting. It was something like Achilles tendon thing, and it's still hurting, Doc.
Well, let's inject that sucker with some cortisone. What do you say? Bring it in, baby. Bring it in.
I'll bring my Achilles tendon into you sometime.
Bring it in, and all these poor Canadians. I feel so bad for them. Their healthcare system. Oh my gosh. I guess it's starting to open up a little bit up there. I don't know what happened with the truckers. I think the police started busting the truckers in Ottawa, and I guess they all went home. I don't know if they're still there or not. Their press is not carrying anything about it at this point. They probably have been told, no more reporting.
So there was an effort. I know there was an effort to get this underway down here as well. Is that still an ongoing project, do you know, the truckers?
I have not seen any real movement. Now, I heard there was a convoy that was headed towards D.C., but I don't know if they ever got there or not. And I know the local police and the Capitol Police were starting to block off roads that ran right in front of the Capitol building and the White House and all that. So I don't know where that's at. It would be interesting to see. Hopefully some tankers will be in that convoy, and they'll have some gasoline so we can get a little cheap gas.
Well, we'll talk to Captain Matt when he gets in here. He knows all that stuff. He keeps track of that. So listen to Captain tonight. He'll tell you.
He's all over that. And, I keep thinking, where is President Polk when you really need him? I mean, he's like, I want Texas. Let's go take it. I want Oregon and Washington. Let's go take it. And we did. We got it.
Yeah.
Did you know that before the Mexican-American War, we actually went down to negotiate with the Mexicans to say, look, Texas wants to be with us, and even though you say now you don't recognize their independence, they've been an independent country for a decade, kind of like the Ukraine, and we don't want to have to fight you. Why don't you just let us buy it? And we'd also like to buy all the way to the Rio Grande. We want that to be the border, and the Mexicans were like, oh, no, we don't want the Rio Grande. We want the little river north of it, the Fuentes or whatever it was. I don't remember. And we said, no, we're not going to do that. And so then Santa Anna secretly started marching the whole Mexican army north, and we swept in from the northwest and from the sea, you know, and the shores of Halls of Montezuma. You know Montezuma. We landed on the Caribbean coast and marched into Mexico City, and I think the treaty was Hidalgo. What was that treaty? The Treaty of, I can't remember, that ended the Mexican-American War. And we ended up paying for the property that we wanted. We got Texas, and we also got Southern California and Arizona and New Mexico, parts of Utah and Nevada, and a whole bunch of territory out there. But we actually ended up paying for that. Did you know that?
I've got a question.
Yeah.
Can we give Southern California back?
Well, we can give the people back. we want to keep the territory. I mean,
okay. Can we just give the politicians back?
We can give the politicians and some of the people back, but you know, San Diego and La Jolla. Oh gosh, La Jolla is so beautiful. Have you been there?
I have not been to San Diego or La Jolla. I've been close, but never got there.
La Jolla is just gorgeous. I mean, that was one of the thrills of my life, was to eat dinner sitting on top of those cliffs overlooking the Pacific and watching all the little wildlife run around down there, and those 100-foot tall seaweed things that were flapping in the breeze and the ocean. Well, the ocean tide, not the breeze, but you know that is just a gorgeous area, and I would hate to see us give it back to Mexico. In fact,
okay, we'll keep La Jolla for you then.
In fact, I was thinking, look, if we're going to take any more Mexicans, they ought to just give us Baja Peninsula and get it over with.
That's true.
You know, that's a nice piece of territory. So then we'd have the whole California coast from the tip of Baja all the way up to Oregon, and it should be ours.
Let's go take it.
Let's take it, baby. That's what I'm saying. Where's
Seems to be all the rage around the world these days, so let's go do it.
Where's President Polk? What about Putin? Maybe Putin would like to help us take it. He seems to know how to invade.
We got about 2 minutes left, Doc.
I want to remind everybody that the Russian czars and potentates have often fallen on bad political moves and bad military moves. You think about what happened to Khrushchev a year after the Cuban Missile Crisis. The Politburo came to him and said, Nikita, you got to step down. You almost got us into a war with the United States, a nuclear war, and they would have destroyed us. So we don't know what you were thinking, and we don't like it. We like you. You're a nice guy, although he wasn't.
But it's time for retirement. Got a nice place on the Baltic, you know.
He retired, and his son wrote his memoirs, and he said he was bluffing the whole time, and he was surprised that Kennedy backed down. He was like, whoa. But the Politburo was worried. They thought, we're not going to be around much longer. The Americans are going to nuke us back to the Stone Age. So, and that goes all the way back through Russian history. One czar after another has fallen over bad military moves. So Putin may fall. He may fall.
1 minute. 1 minute.
He may fall, guy. You don't know. We'll see what history has to hold for us. But it's a dark time. It's a dark time, and I'm concerned. I know you are too, Ken.
I'm very concerned, yes.
But I'm more concerned right now about you getting your COVID vaccine and getting tested if you need to. We're at 727-384-6411, 727-384-6411. We have telemedicine visits, too. You can get the COVID vaccine. You can get a rapid antigen test if you think you're sick with it. Or if you're traveling out of the country and you have to have a PCR test, you can get that. And it's only 30 minutes, Ken. 30 minutes you can sit there and get it. You don't have to wait 48 or 72 hours. We do it right there.
15 seconds.
Because we love you. That's why.
All right, Doc. Been great show. Very interesting again. Got about 5 seconds. Want to say goodbye?
I want to say goodbye. I love you guys. Ta-ta.
Thank you for listening to Dr. Bill, your radio MD. Join Dr. Bill every Sunday morning at 9 for more insight, information, provocation, and fun. Dr. Bill Handelman practices in St. Petersburg, Florida at Bay Area Medical Can Care Clinic, 6399 38th Avenue North. For your convenience, telemedicine appointments are available. Call his office today at 727-384-6411. That's 727-384-6411. Or visit his website at cancareclinic.com.